Ruben Amorim's 3-4-3, something that we talk about literally all the time, whether it be a central midfielder, a wing-back, an inside forward. We are always having conversations about the profiles of player needed to play in each different role. But what we probably don't do enough is talk about the dynamics between players. It's not just about a central midfielder, it's about a central midfielder and the relationship with his partner, or his wing-back, or his inside forward. And that's what we're going to discuss today. Now, I used the midfield as an example, and that is what we are now going to discuss, because we haven't really done this at all this season. Perhaps going back to last year, we often talk about the 4 players that United would get in the middle. So that would be the 2 central midfielders, and then the 2 10s and the inside forwards, and the need to get them guys gelling, the need to get the profiles combining well. We haven't done that so much this season. This season it really feels as though we talk about the 2 inside forwards as part of the attack, rather than potentially as part of the midfield as well. But this is something that Ruben Amorim, if he wants to be successful with the 3-4-3, simply has to get right. United need the right blend of profiles in these areas. Now, for me personally, I would argue that as of yet, we haven't achieved that. I think if you look at the 4 that we tend to lean towards most weeks, there's something in common here, and that's not necessarily a good thing. Yes, players wanting to play in a similar way can help each other, but also if you have too much of one thing, it becomes a bit of a problem. I would say these 4 are relatively direct. You know, they're players that want to score goals and get assists and make a difference over here in the penalty area. When you've got 4 players that want to do that all together, do you risk and run the risk of missing something in terms of control, in terms of synergy? You know, Cunha is a player who wants to be attacking, and Mbeumo wants to be attacking, Bruno wants to be attacking, and so does Casemiro. Now, there's nothing wrong with having attack-minded players close to each other, but I think we could get a better blend in here. I'd say we've got a ball carrier, that's good. We've got someone who likes to stretch a little bit more, but can also use his body to hold the ball up. I like that. We've got 2 reasonably creative players in midfield as well, but what it still feels as though we lack in the middle of the park here is that passing player. Now, all of these are capable of playing a pass, of course they are. But you guys that know football will know what I mean when I say that passing player. The player who sort of runs the tempo and the intensity at all times, you know, across a 90-minute match, is able to speed it up and slow it down and move forward and move sideways. United in the core of the pitch, in the heart here, still lack that. And that's something that we need to work on in the future. Now, a dynamic that we have discussed a little bit more is the dynamic between the wing-back and the inside forward. This is probably one of the most important relationships in the Manchester United team. If we look at a typical 4-3-3, for example, we often talk about a winger needing to complement his fullback and also vice versa. I think in this system, the need for that is even greater. Particularly in the case of the wing-backs, this isn't a normal role that they are asked to do, because so often they are defenders in the team, they are players that sit really deep and help us from that point of view, but they are expected to be these forward players as well. And for those guys to be able to achieve that, to do their jobs properly, they do need the right players alongside them. And this is something that we've discussed a lot, particularly down the right-hand side. I think we've seen moments recently where this looks like it could blossom. We saw it against Sunderland, the 2 of them working really well together. We did a video on that, and yeah, I think we've seen glimpses of how this can be effective, but we also know the drawbacks as well. Ruben Amorim needs to find a way to get that balance right. And it's the same on the left side as well. We know what the strengths are. There's some seriously good ball carrying ability here over on the left. Dorgu and Cunha are both players that like to carry before they pass, which is a good thing because it means that they sort of draw the attention of opposition defenders, they commit a lot of players, they give you that little bit of power and penetration on the ball. But also, of course, the drawback of that is if you've got 2 players that are heavily focused on carrying the ball and driving all the time, once again you are missing that passing dynamic. So again, I do feel that this is something that United need to work on in terms of striking a balance. I'm not saying the 3-4-3 can't work, but for it to work, these balances need to be right. Now, I do just actually quickly want to expand on that point a little bit more and not just talk about the inside forward and the wing back, but the fact that it extends beyond further than that. I think what we often do as fans is we sit here and talk about a player that we would like to sign. I would like this central midfielder, I would like this wing back, I would like this centre back. And, you know, in the case of a centre back, we might think this centre back suits the team because he's going to work well with the middle centre back, which is great. But it's about so much more than that. This wide centre-back also needs to connect with his midfielder. If we have 2 players that aren't comfortable getting on the ball, then that's going to become a bit of a problem. We need our wide centre-back to have the right understanding with our wing-back. Our wing-back needs to link with our inside forward. Our inside forward needs to link with our central midfielder and then back to the centre-back. All of these things tie in together, and I think this is something that has to be discussed much more in modern football. The fact that it isn't just a winger pairing or a midfield pairing, it's so many different players, like we can see here, all connecting with each other and all having a massive influence on the way that they play. Now, the next dynamic that I want to talk about is perhaps a bit more of an obvious one. We often look at a front line and go, those guys need to complement each other. We might say we need a goal scorer, a creator, and a runner, perhaps, for example. You might think that you need those three things in your front line, and this is something that we commonly discuss. At Manchester United, there probably is still a slight lack of the balance. Again, if we're looking in the middle, I think Mbeumo and Cunha are capable creators, but not primarily. They don't want to do that. That's not their ideal job. They will chip in with assists over the course of the season, but I tend to think that realistically they are more there for the goal output. The problem is that's sort of similar with others as well. Amad feels a bit more like a goal scorer than a creator, and then Dorgu on the left-hand side is probably neither. Now, this is something that I think Ruben Amorim has been putting a big focus on. Of course, Cunha, Sesko and Mbeumo have only just started playing together. They haven't had much time together at all. Also, if we go back to it, Mbeumo and Amad haven't played a lot of football together. So I think this is something that Manchester United are working on week by week. And this is why I think and truly believe that United can make rapid progress. There's a lot of talk about United being a million miles away. And yeah, perhaps right now we are. But I'm always of the opinion that in football, it's never as good as you think it is. But also, it's never as bad as you think it is. I never think you are as far away as what you think. And particularly when you've got so many new players in one area, in one front line. We've got 3 new players playing in there. And we've got Amad as well in the front line, playing a position that he hasn't really played for that long in his career. It's not immediately going to click, but given time, it absolutely can. And this is where I do feel that Ruben Amorim sort of does a little bit of patience. Of course, he's been at the club a long time now, but he hasn't been at the club with these forwards for a long time. Now, people will make the counter argument of all of the other stuff that we've seen over the past year, which hasn't worked, and I do agree, and I do get that. But if we are siding with Amorim for a second here, a lot of money has been spent on these 3 players, and so far they haven't been given the time to gel, and already we've seen them performing. Sesko's chipped in with back-to-back goals in the last 2 Premier League games, and Mbeumo has proved to be incredibly effective already. Yes, Cunha probably isn't up to speed just yet, but I think even in glimpses we are seeing his quality. This is perhaps where Amorim deserves a little bit of time to let his forwards almost settle together and then get this front 5 sort of playing on the same wavelength as each other. And of course, it extends further as well. Bruno Fernandes joining from midfield. These are all things that we have to consider. Now, the last dynamic that I want to talk about is really one that very rarely gets spoken about, and that is the dynamic between the wide centre-back and the wing-back. And very often I think we ignore this, partly because perhaps we view the wing-backs as attacking players, I'm not sure. But normally we talk about the back 3, or we talk about the wing-backs with the forwards. We rarely talk about the wing-backs with their wide centre-backs. And if you just look at these 2 sides of the pitch on face value and take them for what they are, the dynamics we've got on both sides are incredibly different. On the left-hand side, we've got 2 fullbacks. Luke Shaw is a fullback, Patrick Dorgu is a fullback. One's playing centre-back, one's playing wing-back. But, by trade, I would say that they are fullbacks. If we go to the other side, we don't actually have any fullbacks at all. We've got a winger in Amad and a centre-back in Lenny Yoro. And I think these dynamics, again, are incredibly important. It's easy to sit here and say, why isn't this player starting, or why isn't this player starting? But the players that play in these areas are important. We will often say, could De Ligt come on the right-hand side? But when Amad's pushing so high, can we actually afford to do that? Is De Ligt a player that can defend such large spaces? I've seen arguments recently that Harry Maguire could come into the team and play as one of the wide centre-backs. That's absolutely crazy to me. If you want Amad as your wing-back and you want to push him high up here, you can't then have someone like Maguire covering such large spaces. It's simply not going to work. So someone like Lenny Yoro is then needed. And I think we have to keep these things in mind when we are trying to figure out our ideal starting 11s for United. When we are suggesting different ideas that we could experiment with, we have to think about these things. There's always the argument of United shifting to a back 4 defensively. But I think that only works with the right personnel in the right positions. In this particular lineup, if we look at the back 5 here, I don't think moving to a back 4 works, or it's not natural, because of the dynamics between the wing-backs and the wide centre-backs. If you were to shift to a back 4, that means one wing-back dropping a little bit deeper, and the other one moving higher. So for example, you would move Dorgu higher, and just shift the team across like this. And it doesn't make sense to me. Sure, moving to left-back, lovely. two centre-backs. Lovely. Ahmad's playing right back. Not ideal. If we swing it the other way, we swing it so Ahmad goes forward, Yoro comes across, De Ligt comes across, Shaw comes across, Dorgu comes across. Not ideal. Yeah, sure, Dorgu's in a great position, but Luke Shaw is now defending as a centre-back in a back four, which I think he's capable of, but it's not his best role. And now Lenny Yoro's on the right-hand side. So again, when asking for certain things from Amorim, we have to consider the squad that he's working with. I really do think these are things that we have to consider when we look at United. I personally am quite critical of Ruben Amorim. I think he's done a pretty poor job over the past 12 months. He hasn't been good enough. He's not improved us in enough different ways. The results haven't been good. I'm very critical of him. But at the same time, like I said, we do have to think about squad dynamic. We do have to consider the positions where right now it doesn't make sense or it needs time to make sense. Some of that's on the players, some of that is on recruitment, but also some of that is on Ruben Amorim and his system. Today's video, you know, it's just a topic that I felt needed to be brought up. I don't even know what the title and thumbnail is for this video yet, which is sort of backwards as to how you would normally do things on YouTube. But I just feel that this discussion needs to be raised. I think we talk about the team in the wrong way. When we talk about a balance, we talk about can two midfielders play together? But it's not just about that. It is about the wing backs with them, the inside forwards, the centre backs, everything that we have covered in today's video. So yes, perhaps today's video lacked the direction that it perhaps normally does. For that, I apologise. But it's an important conversation that I want to bring up, and I really want to hear your thoughts in the comments. What other dynamics do you think are really important in this team if we want to be successful? It seems like Amorim is going to be backed and is going to stay at the football club. So what dynamics do we need to get right for it to work? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But apart from that, we are now finished for today. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this slightly different video. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.